All right, everyone, welcome back. It's been a little while since the last one. The reasoning behind that is, well, Kev and I have lives that we live. We are not full-time content producers, so, we get to live in life instead of pumping out tons of content constantly. We have enough content already that if anybody's found us, it'll keep you busy for quite a while. And it's all golden content, so it should keep you busy for quite a while. So, being summer, I went on a vacation. Kev's been traveling. Who knows where Kev is? You never really can tell where Kev's gonna be. For those of you just tuning in, Kev's former NSA, biostatistics and algorithms expert, so you never know where he might be. When he says, when I'm back from the East, he could mean Thailand. He could mean Cambodia. You never know. So, it's always a bit of a guessing game with when we might get back together, especially in the summer when the weather gets hot and humid around here. And like I said, vacations. I was down in Arizona for a little bit. Very, very hot down in Arizona. Oh my God. When Kev says, people say, yeah, it's a dry heat. Yeah, okay, go stick your head in the oven. Go stick your head in the oven and tell me how it's so wonderful because it's a dry heat. It was record-setting temperatures down there. It was very hot. Very, 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 very hot. If you're not used to it, it'll just zap you. So that's a little bit about where we've been. What's been on my mind lately, why I haven't recorded, because I've been back from vacation for a little while. A couple weeks maybe. I've just been, also had to do some vehicle swappage type of things, so I've been busy. But what's been on my mind, one, why I haven't really been recording just random stuff, is that there's been one thing in particular on my mind that seems worth talking about, but it's one of those things that it's not really that easily described, and it takes some layering to really get down to what I am actually talking about. And that's also been a reason why I haven't been recording in the mornings, because it's the reason I started recording morning trips is because I usually have a nice thought train going where it's like, man, I get some good revelations in there and just reach some really maybe pungent, powerful points that it would be nice to share, how I got to these points, because it's like, man, if people could just see that or experience what I just did with my thoughts from just putting things into perspective, my environment around me, things as they are, right thought, right action. I'm not going to get into all that. Like, it's hard to explain briefly. But to stay on track, the topic is being able to observe your karma. And what I mean by that is being able to understand the cause and effect of the situation around you for each and every little point, for each and every little thing that's relevant. So it's going to take some layering to get to that, like just the idea of, can you observe your karma in any situation? Like, what's happening with the situation? What do you have to unattach from to resolve the situation? Is there a situation that has to be resolved? So I'm going to have to come up with some kind of analogy and scenario for people to present, for people to kind of tag along and understand what I mean here. Because the idea of just observing cause and effect, people will be like, oh yeah, I already got that down, no problem. But it's like, no, I'm talking about a deeper level of understanding and being able to observe the karma, not just the cause and effect that, oh, I saw that I hit the bird and the bird died. that was the cause and effect of the situation. I'm talking about the other level, where it's like karmically. You're like, am I suffering karmically because I did this? You know, am I paying for my sins type of thing? To put it in words that a lot of Christians will understand. Like the karma of paying for your sins. Like, can you figure it out in each moment how to manage your karma in each test of your grits? Your patience is being tested, okay? Like, do you snap off and say some shit that you shouldn't have said? Or are you able to observe the situation and understand what needs to be done for the benefit of the whole? So yeah, that's a bit of a layered conversation, and it's not something I can exactly just whip up and describe to you while I'm driving to work, when I'm driving through construction zones and just needing to pay some attention. So it's not one of these conversations I can really explain to you in full. But also, we've talked about self-assessing process, and if you dig into that, what we've talked about, you'll find a spot where, okay, well, am I content with things? Do I seem to have this figured out? Am I ready to maybe start apply it to life and see what happens then? You'd find the spot where you'd ask others, hey, what do you think's going on here? I'm going to present this information for you. What's your take on it? What do you think? That's usually part of a self-assessing process. So if I'm going to be here like, man, these thoughts have been on my head lately for a good month now, 3 weeks to a month, like knowing that this is the topic that I next want to talk about. But then how do I exactly present it? Because the idea and the understanding hits me right away. But then having to unpack that for others to really understand all the layers that I've applied and gone through. See, somebody like Kevin is going to be able to understand right away when I tell him, like, look, this isn't a face value thing. Like, oh, I shot someone in the head and they died. Like, that's not the kind of karma I'm talking about when I'm talking about cause and effect. Like, the spiritual, God, that word is so fucking horrid. I see people on Facebook just tearing that word apart. So it's even harder to describe what I'm talking about when this fucking society has to take every word that means something and then try to make it not mean anything that it actually means. It is so annoying. Because yeah, it's real easy to take what somebody's saying and try to pick it apart and apply other things to it that you're not actually saying. Fuck you, Trevor, retard boy. Well, it's so fucking, oh my god, you guys said socialism is okay, oh my god. And then you fucking have an aneurysm, a mental breakdown because of it? Jeez. Thanks for serving as the fucking poster child of mental retard fucking-dation. We're talking about fucking Germany in regards to socialism, and this guy goes off and thinks we're talking about all sorts of other fucking shit. After we even premise with, man, this isn't even what we think. Like, this isn't even what we want. We're just talking about this in a perspective angle from Kev's personal fucking point of view in living there. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's a great example of how people just, they expose their true colors just by how fucking insane they react to one thing where they've applied all this meaning that you didn't even mean. They just take it and they're like talking to themselves. You can see their mentality just break down. It's very interesting psychologically, but when someone wants to fucking come at you after years of being like, yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying, and then you say something that they don't like, it's like, then they fully 180 on you, and everything you said fucking did. It's like, dude, you aren't even for real. Like, we can't even take you seriously. You're so fucking stupid at this point. Like, to actually react that way, it's like you just crossed your own name off the list of getting into any sort of heavenly society because you proved you're not fucking worthy. That's what even adding that kid as a professor onto Big Brain University was about. Let's see what this person does, given a little bit of authority, given a little taste of superiority. And not superiority and, oh, we're better than everybody else. No, we're talking about information superiority, experience superiority here. We've talked about these things. We've covered it. So it is hard to describe karmic understanding when you have to use these words that people will just shred and apply all of their own meaning to. So that's part of why I haven't really wanted to record on this subject yet, because what I want to say, I can't exactly say on this drive. And again, I want to talk to Kev and get his take on it. And whenever I ask Kev about things, we end up getting into a very layered conversation where all these, we end up exploring a bunch of other relevant topics, where it's like, yeah, and this relates to that, and that relates to this, and this thought pattern fits that, and that pattern fits this over here. It really becomes a nice, like, woven quilt of a message that we end up delivering. So that's where I'm kind of at with it. The other part of not recording is just the reason, for aforementioned reason, I told you that I have these thoughts on the road that are just like, man, I wish other people could have had that, because life would be way better if that person was as cool as that thought was. If they could do that, then man, their life would be good. You know, they could make the best of this shitty situation. But how I get to those is usually from observing some silence and an observation of what's going on around me. Like I said, words are very hard to describe your thoughts because people can mistake them very easily and on purpose. So a lot of it has just been, I've been enjoying my own thought process, you know, just enjoying life, like enjoying the silence. A lot of people don't like silence to the point where it freaks them out, you know, they don't like their own thoughts. But I'm a person who is the exact opposite. I went and found a lot of answers, and this sort of odd conversation, you know, that conversation you kind of have back and forth with yourself through your thoughts. Well, that turned into like, it was like something else was kind of communicating through those thoughts and like inputting things in the environment that I was like, this seems like, I'll insert the word God, which is just gonna break everybody's fucking brains. But at the time, that was kind of, I was like, is God, is like the universe like putting these things here, like building this path for me, like having people say things around me that speak to the conversation that's going on in my head for a specific reason? Like, is that because you gotta remember, I was on the quest, like the seeking the truth raw experience that most people would like to go on, but a lot of people never get to do. Like, I wrote a book about it. I'm not going to get into all the details, but it's like, I went down to the monastery where they're studying emptiness and monks are being ordained. Like, it was a place for me to really have that inner conversation. And like I was saying, a lot of people can't, they hate that inner conversation, or it is what it is. I was really experiencing like how to manage that conversation, and in that experience it was like, okay, there's something else here that's like communicating, and that, you know, led to more layered, deeper understanding and experiences. So when I say it's like, man, I sometimes I just don't want to record what I'm thinking, because I am just enjoying thinking and I'm actually getting somewhere. And a lot of times, most often, because my thoughts are tuned. I'm not like, hey, what year was Mickey Mouse invented? You know, my thoughts are tuned into like, what is going on here? What truths can I learn? You know, the conversation from yesterday didn't stop. It's continuing on today. That part of the journey where I was like so spiritually, what's the word? Oh, not overwhelmed, but so spiritually whelmed and just that visceral experience was occurring. The synchronicities and stuff, that hasn't stopped. So for me, it's just been a continual learning experience. So that's where my mentality tends to go to. So when my thoughts are on that, it's like, hey man, I'm doing my own process. I'm learning. I'm setting myself up to learn. I'm processing things. So just trying to, again, you know, give you a glimpse into my thought process without having to sit here and explain all of my thoughts. But it's been a while, so I wanted to get some content out there just to address, like, oh, did these guys drop off the map, or did they give up, or what's going on here? Or did the big bad comments about how bad they are for talking about socialism, did that scare them away, and now, oh no, they're afraid to put more like, no, that had no that had no effect on anything we'll ever do and have ever done. That situation, having to remove, has really just been a learning experience to a question I asked the universe a couple years ago, whatever it was, a year ago, 6 months ago. Put somebody who thinks they're big shit on the spot and see what they do. Remember in that movie Finding Nemo? Let us see what Squirt does flying solo. Do they add any value to what we're doing? Do they bring any new people around? Are they having any conversations in their personal life that are enlightening others? And the answer was no. So what Squirt did flying solo was very little to nothing. So now I have documented content to show people. An example of somebody who talks a talk but never walks a walk, and it was always obvious. And I can break that down too. And this has to do with understanding karma, being able to observe it in yourself, as I was thinking, and others. Anybody who knows my situation at all would understand that if I'm talking about someone else, I'm talking about myself on some layer. And I understand that, and I understand how my connection to that person affects their lives and will bring certain things in or out of it. Might sound odd to somebody just hearing that, but hey man, your lack of understanding doesn't make me odd. It doesn't make you dumb either. That's also not what I'm saying. So, let's see. We're not too far away. I don't have a whole lot more to say other than what's coming up. Gonna talk to Kev whenever he gets back from doing whatever he's been doing. Hopefully he has been to the NSA headquarters and picked me up a beanie, a stocking hat, because that would just be swaggy cool. So we will see. We will see. I am excited, always excited to hear where Kev has been. The guy probably played in some poker tournaments, some like pro tour poker tournament type of thing. along the way, or talk to somebody that did. There's always a good story there. You can always count on a good story from Kev. So I'm sure that'll be on the horizon. Again, we're going to dig into this, probably try to make it into a Big Brain University lesson. Maybe, would it be lesson number 7? Lesson number 7 for the karmic. Have a little conversation about understanding karma. It doesn't sound like too bad of an idea, but this type of lesson is a little bit tougher to prepare, and I can tell because it's not all coming to me right at once. Like, this has been a layered experience. Like, every day driving, I've been like, if I was going to start talking about this, what would I have to say today? And then how would I explain that? How would I add, what do I actually mean on that to get to the next layer? Because, again, when you explain something, and this is a challenge when you're talking to somebody, is it's like you have a layered conversation that you are trying to get through to actually get to the point. But when someone asks you, oh, well, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? And you're like, understanding your karma, being able to observe it. And they're like, oh, yeah. And you're like, no, no, you don't understand what I'm talking about by me just telling you the subject. Because I'm going for a very particular level of understanding, not just like that surface kind of stuff that most people are on. Most people do not self-reflect and have a self-assessing process at a level that they're understanding their karma towards other people, how it affects other people, and how they're even tied to it. And I know this because I can see the things that you're doing and saying. So I know that you're not self-aware of the things you like. I can see how you people drive. You know what I mean? Like, most people can't drive in a state of self-awareness where they're being conscious of the other people on the road. Their level of conscious of other people on the road is trying to cut them off and not making room for them. Trying to race them, shit like that. Like, we've got the opposite mentality of being connected to somebody's karma. Like, dude, that's you that you're talking to. I don't care what you think. Like, you understand that there's a difference. If you're talking to somebody who's like committed a crime, like a murder or a crime against a child, that's not technically physically you. Like, you didn't commit that crime, but you need to understand on the level that we are all connected, the levels that we are all connected, it is you. You need to understand the difference of the you in somebody else and the them in somebody else. You do need to understand that difference. And what a lot of relationships, this pings my brain about this, like, you'll see a lot of relationships where one of the persons in the relationship understands how to manipulate the other. Right? Do you kind of see what I'm going for a little bit there? Like, yourself, that person, and you know how to manipulate them. So you know yourself and that person because you know how to manipulate them to get the outcome that you want them to do. That's a level of you. So a lot of people, a lot of manipulators, just, they'll show their true colors just by what they want you to do for them. How they talk to you. The experiences they want you to have by what they're saying. And like I'm telling you, a lot of people are not aware of their connection to it. So they will suffer the karmic reaction of what that person suffers just from the words that you tell them. So when you say that the words are like, the pen is more powerful than the sword, that's kind of somewhat what they mean there. Even though you do all have the ability to totally override all of the words being said around you. Like I was saying earlier, most of you will just apply your own meaning onto the words anyway and be like, oh, that's what he's actually saying because he said those words. That's what he actually believes. You in that fucking word. The goddamn belief thing, man. And then they'll actually believe. That's what the thing of it. Like, did I say those exact words that you just said and applied to what you think I meant? No, I said only the words that I said. So if you're going to go and try to apply other things and like you actually said them to the point that you think that they're real, like that's you attaching to a meaning, a delusion that you applied yourself. It has nothing to do with the person, the messenger. That gets into a conversation about like when you're talking non-verbally, like through text and stuff like that, and like even sometimes face to face, a lot of times people are just talking to themselves because they're not actually listening and hearing you. They hear you say the word socialism and then their brain just turns off and breaks. And then they go off and have a conversation with themselves. It's like, what are you doing? You're not even fucking talking to that person. Like, you're just talking to yourself. Like, running your fucking mouth. Blah, 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 blah. And blah, 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 blah. You're just talking to yourself the whole time. You're not actually having a conversation. So it's like you can see people's delusion unfold. Now, are you attached to their karma because you said a word and their brain broke and they're going to go hurt somebody or something or themselves or just delude themselves? Are you attached to that? Well, not really. Because if you made sure to present the information in a way that you were like, hey man, I think something else, but like we're going to talk about this to add perspective to perception, then your karma's covered. So it's a very interesting world that we have here with this karma thing. There's a lot of magic involved in it, and not the kind I mean like you're conjuring shit, but just the kind like there's energy here that gets exchanged and you're attached to things that you don't, that's attached to things that you don't understand a lot of the times. So that's a little brief intro to what I'm talking about understanding your karma. So with that, I bid you all a good day and take care of yourselves out there. We'll see you next time.